Would you insulate your home in bubble wrap and foil? A Dutch company called PXA Nederland sent me these samples of Isobooster insulation, which might be the most fun and innovative product I've received. It consists of 3 repeating layers. The first is low-density polyethylene or LDPE bubble wrap with small air cushions. The second has large air cushions, and the third is a polyester or PET film treated with evaporated aluminum. I'm very intrigued by this product because it relies on the physics of heat movement and questions traditional insulation. Let's look at the 3 modes of heat transfer. Conduction is the flow of heat through solids. Materials with high density conduct heat faster than materials with low density because air is a poor conductor. Convection is the flow of heat through a gas or liquid. Heat warms air molecules which expand, become less dense, and rise. Radiation is the transfer of heat through infrared rays, which is a band on the electromagnetic spectrum between visible light and microwaves. This is the most dominant form of heat transfer. In winter, 50 to 75% of heat loss through the ceiling and the roof is radiant, and 65 to 80% of heat loss through the walls is radiant. In summer, up to 93% of heat gain through the roof is radiant. Traditional insulation like rock wool or glass wool tackle the conductive flow of heat. In winter, they absorb interior heat and slow down its loss to the cooler exterior. In summer, absorption slows down the transfer of heat to the cooler interior. Isobooster insulation tackles the flow of heat through infrared radiation. In summer, it reflects heat to the outside, and in winter, it reflects heat back to the interior. A thinner version of this product is available at Home Depot that can be used in walls, on HVAC ducts, water pipes, garage doors, and water heaters. Isobooster insulation is different because it addresses radiation with multiple layers of aluminum foil, and it addresses conduction with multiple layers of bubble wrap. It's available in 4 thicknesses from 24 mm or 1 inch to 56 mm or 2.2 inches. So what happens to the moisture and water vapor that gets trapped behind the wall? The reflected infrared radiation vibrates water molecules and evaporates them. This makes the air in the wall cavity and in interior spaces drier, and it decreases relative humidity. This constant layer of hot, dry, rising air always moves along the surface of the reflective foil, a phenomenon called the quanta effect. Dry air insulates twice as well as humid air, leading to healthier environments and preventing mold. Isobooster claims to turn your walls and floors into infrared radiators. Let's discuss all the advantages of this product. Installation is very simple. It can be cut to size with scissors or a box cutter. Its attached to wood studs with staples or capped nails. All the seams must be taped up. It doesn't release any harmful fibers or dust. It doesn't cause any skin or airway irritation, and it doesn't give off any toxic fumes. Since it's flexible, it can be easily wrapped around pipes and outlets in stud bays. It's great for both renovations and new projects. It is 8 times lighter than conventional insulation materials, so transportation and labor costs are cheaper. 1 container of Isobooster is equivalent to 4 trailers of mineral wool, which leads to lower CO2 emissions. It is especially useful on houseboats where every kilo or pound counts. It can also be used on the remodel of old homes and buildings with space constraints. Because it is so thin, you do not need to replace windows, skylights, or door frames. It is very versatile. It can be used on walls, floors, basements, ceilings, and roofs, both on the inside and the outside. It is environmentally friendly. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying that plastic insulation is sustainable, but hear me out. Like I've said in previous videos, plastic is an incredible human invention. We have abused and exploited it and created a destructive culture of single-use plastic. That is our fault, not the materials. The manufacturing of LDPE and PET film is clean and efficient. It has low CO2 emissions, and it doesn't create much waste or harmful substances. It is also not an energy-intensive process like traditional insulation materials. Isobooster not only reduces the energy consumption of a building, it is also 100% recyclable. Polyethylene is a thermoplastic material, which means that it can be melted down into new products over and over again. The aluminum deposits on this are just 1% of the product, and it dissolves easily during the recycling process. At the end of its life, it can be converted into car or airplane parts, or even plastic crude oil, which is a source of energy. There's also no thermal drift or loss of R value over time. It is also insect and rodent repellent. Isobooster has a 70-year lifespan and it isn't biodegradable. Now the disadvantages. Its R value is on the lower end. It's 2.4 per inch, comparable to fiberglass. However, if you've watched my R value video, you know that the testing method favors fibrous insulation. If you look at the actual thermal resistance or thermal resistivity, due to reflection of radiation rather than conduction, it probably performs much better. I was a little disappointed with the material's fire resistance. It singed initially, but after prolonged exposure to the flame, it ignited. Fortunately, it doesn't give off any toxic fumes when burnt. It costs 13.77 euros per meter square or $1.55 per square foot. It's even more expensive than rock wool, which is $1 per square foot. But if you consider reduced transportation and labor costs and a longer lifespan, the prices are comparable. This is such a niche product with very few manufacturers. If it gets more popular and it's produced in larger quantities, we'll see a price reduction. Most importantly, this is a vapor barrier with a very low Perm rating. It is not breathable, so you must be careful if you're using this in buildings that have no mechanical ventilation. In older buildings that don't have an HVAC system, you'd have to vent the cavity to allow water vapor to escape. There's a growing movement of airtight buildings both in the US and in Europe. People are advocating for building materials that are air barriers but are vapor open. These buildings usually have continuous insulation and inoperable windows. However, if you don't properly size your mechanical equipment, you are not circulating enough air in your home. This causes a buildup of vapor and mold in your walls. I spoke to an HVAC guy who said that he's received more calls than usual over the last year about decreased air quality and dampness on walls. He said that with families working, studying, and cooking at home, the amount of moisture generated and relative humidity levels have increased drastically. If you have an airtight home with an undersized HVAC system, you will have condensation issues. So, vented cavities in attics with insulation like Isobooster is not necessarily a bad thing. It would be ideal if this product was made of 100% recycled materials, but we haven't perfected the recycling process yet. A recycled insulation product might not perform as well, and it would be difficult to pass building code requirements. For the same reason, ICF blocks are made of virgin and not recycled polystyrene. This product is really exciting. It seems futuristic and it doubles as high fashion. Unfortunately, it has some drawbacks. Apart from its low fire resistance, it has to overcome huge psychological and mental barriers of consumers. We see mass and density as quality. We seem to equate flimsiness to an inferior product rather than looking at its performance. Misconceptions about the manufacturing and use of plastic products is another hurdle. We have seen the destruction of single-use plastics and microplastics, and we group higher quality long-term use plastics with them. I would love to see this used on tiny homes and van conversions and on boats too, as an initial movement, as possible test subjects to prove that the material works. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll provide links to PXA Nederland, Isobooster, and my Patreon page in the description below. If you can support me, I'd really appreciate it. A big thank you to everyone already supporting me. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See ya. Okay, focus.